Do you have a product or service, or have a special event that you would like to announce to thousands in the DeKalb area? Well, reach out to us for our low introductory rate at www.eytvshow.com for our low introductory rate.
Welcome to the Mantle of Leadership. I am your host, M.J. Easley, pastor of the Gathering Church of Atlanta. So excited that you've taken out time today to be here with us. I hope not only am I in your home, but I'm in your heart by now. Today we're talking about lost identity. I have some great brothers who we're going to introduce to you in a second. I want to let you know that the opinions of myself and our dear brothers, they are not that of Comcast or their affiliates, but that of ourselves. And so with that being said, I want you to get ready, call a friend, call a neighbor, tell them that we are on Mantle of Leadership. We'll see you when we come right back.
Do you have a product or service, or have a special event that you would like to announce to thousands in the DeKalb area? Well, reach out to us for our low introductory rate at www.eytvshow.com for our low introductory rate.
Welcome back to the Mantle of Leadership. I am your host, Pastor M.J. Easley. So excited to be back with you guys. If you were tuned in to last episode of Mantle of Leadership, you know we talked about identity crisis. Today we are talking about lost identity and how do you find it. And I'm so excited to have some esteemed brothers who are going to help us find it. And we're going to talk about that today. I have a good friend of ours of this show. His name is Eddie Napper. Come on, let's give him, celebrate him, what he's doing, some great things. And we can't wait to hear from him. We also have James Earl Cray, a gentleman I met not too long ago, and I was really, really impressed. And I said, I got to have him on our show. We also have an activist. His name is Greg Morton. He's here with us to share with us. And we also have an entrepreneur. His name is Edward Fernandez. I want to give these guys an opportunity. So I've met them, but I want you to meet them. And so come on, Eddie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Eddie Knapp. I'm from South Georgia, Fitzgerald, Georgia, a very big place. My business is logistics and classic car restoration. My passion is music and disability children. I moved to Atlanta in 1996. Started my business in 06 of 2000, being pushed out of corporate America because that wasn't my thing, corporate America. Good people supported me. But my identity, I feel the way we have lost our identity is courage, spiritual relationships, and family relationships. The feeling of family, unity. Open up to the other panel here. I don't want to do all the talking.
Okay, awesome. Let's hear from James.
Well, my name is James Earl Cray. I'm close from where Mr. Elwood is from. I'm from South Georgia as well, Southeast Georgia, Hazelhurst, Georgia, which is also a large place. I'm the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization down in Hazelhurst, Georgia that's entitled the acronym GREAT, which stands for Generation Reaching, Educating, and Teaching. I'm currently working now at the House of Hope Atlanta under Senior Pastor E. Dewey Smith Jr. as the interim college pastor over college student, college ministry. And I'm currently attending the ITC. I'm a middler in my second year. I'm getting my second master's degree, and this is a Master's of Divinity.
Awesome. Let's hear from Mr. Greg Morton.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Greg Morton. I'm from East Orange, New Jersey. I've been in town for about 30 years, though. I've been here since 1986. What brought me here was opportunities to work in the educational field. I was a co-adjunct professor at Rutgers University for a number of years, and I came here and I worked at Morehouse School of Medicine, Emory University, Rollins School of Public Health. I had the good fortune to be in research in African American history, family unity, and family reunification. So I've had a lot of opportunity to kind of see how we lost our identity through a research standpoint of view. Just what the numbers say is that in the 1960s, 75% of men were in the homes and the families that they created. Wow. Right now, today, there are only 40% of men who reside in the homes of the families that they've made. So I think that's a large factor in terms of how we've lost our identity.
Awesome. Edward?
Hi, my name is Edward Fernandez. I'm the CEO and president of 3E Entertainment LLC here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I write, direct, and produce stage plays. I have a stage play that's coming up Valentine's weekend at the First Center for the Arts. It features Shirley Murdoch, Christopher Williams, Deatra Hicks, Erica Dixon, and Dathan Thigpen, just to name a few. I've been in Atlanta since about 2009. My company has been in existence for about a year. I actually started writing plays in high school. And so I'm very excited about being here to discuss with the other gentlemen the subjects of today. So thank you.
Awesome. I want to let you know personally, I'm so excited to have each and every one of you here. I really believe that today's topic is something that's close to my heart. In the series of identity crisis, I believe that we are in a state of emergency and we have to find out who we are. And I believe Greg Morton, he opened up the can of worms here when he said that he believes that we've lost our identity. I believe you're referring into as far as our culture, African American, in the lack of fathers.
That's correct.
Or men in the homes.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Losing our identity. You said what percentage of the men? Let's go there.
Currently, right now, there are only 40% of men who are in the homes of their families. Back in the late 60s, we had as much as 75% of men there. There have been a lot of reasons why men have left the home. Part of it was the advent of the social welfare system, where if you were not employed, you could not stay in the home if the family was collecting any type of welfare assistance. What that led to was a whole lot of other series of events which really became a catastrophe in our community. It led to drug addiction, alcoholism. It led to men just wandering around aimlessly in large cities without work, without direction, without focus. So therefore, they couldn't raise a family. They couldn't raise children who knew where they wanted to go.
Now that's interesting. I definitely have to ask this question. It leads me to this. What role does a man play in establishing or help establishing someone's identity, their child's identity? What role? Edward.
Well, to answer that, you would look at the time of Adam. When God got ready to bring forth the family, he did it with a man named Adam. And out of Adam, he brought Eve. And out of Eve came the family. I think what people fail to realize is what it took to start civilization. It takes that to continue it. It started with a man. One of the interesting things as well is that when a man is old, in Bible times, when a man was old and getting ready to die, he would call his children and say, hey, you're going to be this and you're going to be that. He would give them their identity. And so people fail to realize that the man is so intricate, and him being absent in the home, it actually throws off the balance of the family. And so that's what that's what it took to start the family, and it definitely takes it to continue it.
Okay, James.
I think we also have to look back historically. Nakeem Akbar has a book called The Psychological Chains of Slavery. And he talks in that book about how the identity of the black man was actually, rather than us losing it, was stripped from us. Wow. Talks about how in slavery times they would take the biggest and strongest male on the plantation, place him in front of all the slaves, and literally just tear him apart. And then the people would now look at that and say that the only way to survive or the only way to make it would be depending upon the slave master. So it really stripped the identity, speaking of the African American community. And now you see that has trickulated down into this generation. So now we're not the ones that lived through that process of slavery, but we're experiencing the impact from it. Mm-hmm. And I think more than just losing it, it's really been stripped from our young black men.
Wow, that's an interesting point. Greg?
Yeah, there's a document that everybody can look up and research. It's called the Willie Lynch Letter. It was written by a plantation owner back in the late 1700s. And what he identified, he said that if you want to control a man, you don't have to put chains on him. What you do is you chain his mind. And what they did very effectively was chain the minds of many black people. And that forced us to be very fearful about venturing out into doing things that were going to be positive or even challenging the system that we were under.
Wow. That's interesting. If anyone knows about an elephant, a circus elephant, once it's brought from the wild into captivity, what they do to this elephant is they chain it. They find the biggest tree that they can find, and they chain it to a tree. And for months and sometimes even years, because this elephant, this majestic beast, is used to being free, his inclination is to try to break free. And so even at his own detriment, to his own harm, to the point that he's bleeding, he's to the point that he breaks his leg trying to break free. Then one day the trainer looks at him and realizes that his will has been broken when he stops trying to break free. So therefore he releases him from that tree. He takes him, and if you ever seen an elephant with a little rope on a little steep in the ground and never wonder why he never tried to break free, it's because in his mind he doesn't think he can, because he's been conditioned. So I think that's what we're saying, being stripped. A lot of times the man has been conditioned not to break free or to lose his identity. So what do you have to say about that, Mr. Eddie?
Well, to tailgate on what these gentlemen have spoke on, we see in today's society the absence of a father, whether he's at home in the young man's life or the young lady's life, because of what we see goes on with our crime rate, black on black crime, murder, the young girls not accepting who they are, the way they are, and emanating other celebrities, some form of figure to grab some form of identity. The presence of a man is highly needed. I'm an individual that didn't have my father in my home, but back in the 60s, we had that village thing. You didn't have to be the son, but you got what you got when you was out of line with any man that was around, and women as well. So this could be the whole talk show about loss of identity, but it's not about how we started, it's how we finish. So whatever we contribute to our communities and society, I think we can bring the unity back to our families, even with the absence of the father.
Absolutely. James?
I think another point for us to look at too is not only the condition or the mind condition of the male, but also the mind condition of the female now. If you think about low-income homes where a sister may have children and she be on Section 8 or she gets governmental assistance, the process to get the governmental assistance or to be on Section 8 is there can't be a man in the home. So now the sister says, I don't need this man in the home because maybe he's not able to provide for me what governmental assistance and what Section 8 can. So it pushes the man out of the home again. So therefore, you see again where the identity of the man is not stripped because he feels inadequate because I can't even live in the home if my family wants to get some type of governmental assistance.
Wow. This is awesome. We're about to take a break right here, and I think this is a great place to break. We've talked about the problems. I believe when we come back, we need to talk about some solutions. And so if you stay tuned, I think that we're going to get to a place where you say, hey, listen, I've lost who I am, I've lost myself, but it's time for me to find who I am. You may not have had a dad or a mom, or you may have been, raised on the wrong side of the tracks, but we're going to get you on the right side today. Lost identity. We'll be right back.
Do you have a product or service, or have a special event that you would like to announce to thousands in the DeKalb area? Well, reach out to us for our low introductory rate at www.eytvshow.com for our low introductory rates.
Welcome back to the Mantle of Leadership. I'm MJ Easley, your host. If you were here before break, we were talking about how we lost our identity as men. There was something that was very intricate that happened during break. I guess everybody got a little comfortable. But Mr. Morgan said something. Another issue outside the man not being present, you said a word that we were what? In denial. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. We're in denial about who we are as a people. If you look at us historically, just over the last 60 years, we have changed how we refer to ourselves. In the late 1950s, we were colored. Mm-hmm. Then it became Negro in the mid 60s. Then Afro-American in the late 60s, early 70s. Now we're African American. Now we've even graduated to black. So anytime you change your identity that much, it's got to be confusing about who you really are, because you've got family members who may still be trapped in colored, Negro, or Afro-American. They haven't made it all the way up to the black stage yet. And what does that even mean? Black is not a color, it's a consciousness. So if we're black people, it's not about the texture or color of your skin, it's about the consciousness in your head.
Wow, that's awesome. I wish I could clap right there, but we are in denial. We are denying who we are. I said this also during break about how a lot of times we can't see who we are because we don't have a mirror. We don't have a proper perspective of our own selves. And I thought about this earlier today. You know, I used the restroom, and immediately as I'm washing my hands, I'm looking at myself. And it's our natural inclinations, no matter whether you're black, white, red, Hispanic. If you see a mirror, if you pass by a mirror, it is not that you're vain or conceited. You just want to know how I look, you know, to make sure that everything is in place. And the Bible says this: how can a man look in the natural glass, look in the mirror, behold what manner of man he is, and straightway we forget. I believe we've lost our identity because we forget, or we have forgotten how we look. We no longer have a measuring stick. We no longer have a gauge of ourselves. So James, won't you talk a little bit about that?
I think one point to think about, to put on a positive note, is that I think looking at the idea of remembering who we are, I think we're starting to get to that point. I think just thinking from the black community and black perspective, and maybe even from a diverse perspective, what we're doing now with pushing the movie Selma and putting that image out there and getting people to understand the identity of people like Dr. King and the people that marched along with that mindset. And like you were referring to, just going back to the mindset of the 1950s and 60s. And sometimes we have to rewind back to remember that identity and bring that identity forward. So I think on a positive side, we're starting to do those things by putting forth movies like Selma, and churches actually getting behind them and pressing their young people to go see these different movies and things like that.
I think that's excellent. One thing I want to ask a question to you gentlemen: who are we? You know, I mean, when you're talking about identity, well, who are you? And how do you establish who you are? What makes you you?
I would say, I think the first thing that must happen is that we have to change the way we decide who we are. My grandfather, my grandparents, they were very influential in my life in raising me. And so I know my grandfather defines who he is by what he do.
Yeah.
You know, if he doesn't do anything, there's no real worth. You're not what you do. You know, and I think that's the first thing you must do, is separate what you do from who you are. The second thing I think that must happen is that you have to, I think you can only find out who you are through God, number one. God has to tell you, reveal to you who you are. The third thing I think I would add to that is that because the fathers are not in the homes, you have no one to tell you who you are. They tell you, be a man. My mom said, be a man. But my dad wasn't there, so no one could show me to, be what I was being told. So a lot of times the youth, what happens is they succumb to the options that they see on television or the status quos. And so I think first of all, you have to just go back to developing who you are, getting people in your life who are going to be very influential, be very positive role models. One of the things I would like to say that you said, James, you said about the government assistance that a lot of women get. I think government assistance is one of the things that have crippled us as a people. I think that anytime you said, I'm going to give you this, but you got to get out of the house. The government wouldn't give us anything if we as men were providing. The Bible says that a man that don't work, don't eat. So because us as men, some of us are not able to provide, that's why the government steps in, and rightfully so, you should get out because you're not being that man that God has called you to be, in my opinion. So
now, I want to say this because you said what we do is not directly related to who
we are. Yeah.
I want to partially disagree with that.
Okay.
Because I believe that is why we have lost our identity, because we do a lot which doesn't necessarily exemplify who we are. When you are truly your authentic self, everything you do should line up to who you are. Now the difference is there's some things we have to do.
Correct.
That we don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
Just so we can do what we want to do.
Correct.
There's
Gotcha.
that's the difference of sacrifices. Now our parents and our fathers and grandfathers taught us as a man how you make sacrifices. The word teaches us that a man would make sacrifices, and it is the woman that submits to the sacrifice that the man makes. So I believe that we have to get to a place, if we're going to be our authentic self, that what we do is exemplary of who we are. So, and I think it gets back to what is our core? How do you establish who you are? You have to have a core. And everything from that core has to blossom, has to grow, has to bloom. Do you agree with that?
I guess I was looking at it from a different perspective when I said what you do and who you are. And I hate to go back to the Bible, but that's my base.
Yeah.
David was on the backside of a mountain dealing with sheep, but he was anointed to be king.
Yeah.
And so what he was doing was definitely not what he was called to be.
Okay.
And so that's the perspective that I was in separating what you do from who you are.
Now, don't confuse your grooming process. That's preparation.
Gotcha.
And then, and I'll say this is free. There's a difference between reality and truth.
Yeah.
Truth is absolute.
It's
Truth never
universal,
changes.
yeah.
But if I ask you what time it is and you tell me it's 6:58, if I ask you a minute later, it's 6:59. Now, was it true it was ever 6:58? No, that was just my current reality. Reality changes every second, every minute. So David, when you look at him, you're not looking at him in his truth. You're just looking at him in his reality.
Gotcha.
And so the truth is he was anointed to be king. And I think what happens is we allow reality to define us because we get stuck in a moment.
Correct.
And that reality becomes the only truth we know.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's how we develop identity. That's how we,
But we identify ourselves not necessarily with the truth,
but with the
our
reality, with our moment.
Our reality, my mom and them was broke.
Yeah.
That's just a reality,
Yeah.
but that's not the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is that there's cattle on 1,000 hills. There's truth is that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The truth is that I would above all that you would prosper and be in good health. Even that's the truth that is absolute, that does not change based on our current reality. You agree?
Yep.
All right. I think Eddie want to say something.
Whatever you do, don't never take God out of anything.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's our creator.
Yeah.
In Psalms 139, I am fearfully and wonderfully. Every man should be fine with who he is and how God created him.
Yeah.
Back to the mirror.
Yeah.
Mirror talk. Ronnie Laws has a song about it. The mirror, when you get in front of the mirror and you break down and just truly just get naked with it and accept who you are, things would change. Some of us do it in the early age, some in the middle age, some in the later stage. But any point it comes, when you identify with who you really are and be okay with that and stay in that fine, narrow lane and let God be your source each and every day. And it's a challenging thing because the word says, when you choose him, they refuse him, you will be refused, you'll be persecuted, all those things. You couldn't be in a better place and truly finding your identity. And it's painful because you have gone through life with that mask. And that's truly not who you are. But when you find out who you are through him, you can be in a better place. So in today's society, I think being God been taking out a lot of things that he was in before, schools, businesses and things. We as men and women, we cannot make no excuse for not using what we was taught from the very beginning. If you black and Baptist or from the South, you know it.
That's it.
We have to keep God in everything we do. So whatever you do, that's why you where you at. That's why you where you at. That's why we all where we at.
Yeah.
Life will always be full of challenges, sacrificing, but as long as we faithful and obedient, we get it done.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Mr. Morton, what you have to say about that, sir?
I agree with what the gentleman said. My background tells me that there's a little bit more, and that little bit more is the reality.
Yes.
He spoke truth, but the reality is that we have to do some other things to prepare ourselves so that we can live that truth that you were talking about. So I'm all for that, but excuse me, education I think is the key. And education is not just in the classroom, but it starts out in the home.
Yeah.
We need to have education in the home. That was one of the primary roles that the father had in the home. See, the father was just not a provider. He was a leader. He was the first teacher. That's your first teacher when you're born, is your father. And if you don't have that, then you're a step behind. Not that you can't make up that step. What you said was exactly true. The village can raise a child in the absence of a father, but you have to be very selective and vet the village that you choose. Because that village has deteriorated also.
Yeah,
And
wow.
we know that the village is in need of some, extra care right now.
It's interesting because really what we're talking about right now are defining moments. What it is that actually defines who we are. And again, like I think I mentioned it earlier about we have to have core values. When we come back from break, I want to ask each of you, in one word, what word describes who you are? If you only had one word in all of Webster's dictionary that you could pick, what word would you want to be known or identified with? That's true. So we'll be right back. And audience, I want you to think of one word that describes who you are. We'll be right back.
Do you have a product or service or have a special event that you would like to announce to thousands in the DeKalb area? Well, reach out to us for our low introductory rate at www.eytvshow.com for our low introductory rate.
Welcome to Mantle of Leadership. I'm your host, Pastor MJ Easley. This is Mantle of Leadership, a special edition of Express Yourself. I'm so excited about this topic. We're talking about lost identity. Before we went away from the break, I wanted you to think about one word that describes you in all of Webster's dictionary. If you had one word, what would that word be? I'm going to start to my far right, and I want to ask Mr. Eddie, one word, and tell me why.
Love. Love is the axle of this universe. My reason why is love, because not having a father and my mother, she was young and I was taken in by my aunt. The worst place you can be in life is feeling unloved.
Wow.
And when you go through life challenges and changes and be pretty much a callous to society because you felt you wasn't any form of value. But through that journey in the military, I met quite a few gentlemen that took me under their wing that sensed what I didn't receive when I needed it. So becoming a wise man at this point in time in my life and closer to Christ, love is what I am, love is what I will be, love is what I will. Because despite what anybody's going through, you either been through it or familiar with it. So love is truly what I am to the core, because it's less stress. You can always invite even from the homeless to the millionaire. You have something to show that what you see here is the love that the Creator gave all of us, and it is truly needed in society today.
That's a great attribute to want to possess for your identity. James?
I think for me, the word that I would want to be remembered by, and the word that I feel describes me best, is passionate. I always want people to remember everything I did, that I did it with a passion. Don't ever want to do anything half-heartedly. And because of that passion, I think that's what's driven me from a single parent home to be what I consider successful, because I think success is driven by the person, not by society. So passionate is the one word that describes me, and the one word that I will want my daughter and everybody else to remember me by.
Awesome. Mr. Greg, one word.
Committed. I'm committed to our struggle. I'm committed to our learning. I'm committed to helping others do things that we need to do. I'm committed to the idea that things are going to change. And I'm committed to the fact that we will get better. We will see the promised land as a people, as a nation, and that's what I'm all about.
Awesome. Edward?
I would say transparency. My manager, she's here, she actually kind of gets on me sometime for that, but I believe in being very transparent. I believe the way to teach the younger generation, and the generation that's coming up after me, is by being transparent. Let them know that, hey, I struggle, I went through things, but I can make it and you can too. And I think that's where that's what's wrong with a lot of people today. They're just not transparent about their struggles. They see great people like Mr. James and all of these men, but they don't know that, hey, these guys have bled and led at the same time. And so I think transparency is key, and that's what I would like to be remembered by. I was transparent.
Awesome. And I'll say for myself, consistency. Consistency is everything. I believe that there is a pace and a rhythm that when you become your authentic self and you know who you are, that you operate in, that you're not moved by every wind or by every wave. And the Bible says this, double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. I just don't think you can accomplish anything without being consistent. I believe we have some audience members who want to chime in on this. Come on, let's hear from them.
Good evening, how are you?
Good evening.
Good. The word that describes me most is faithful.
Faithful, awesome.
I think that I describe myself that way because I feel that I will do what I need to do for who I need to do it for to a fault.
Awesome.
Because I've promised that. So I'm faithful to what my word is.
Awesome. We also have Prophet Daniel Stevens. He's in the house. He has some comments, and I think he wants to chime in as well. But he's been here listening to us, and I know he's been sitting on the edge of his seat wanting to get in. So let's hear from him.
Awesome. So the word that I can describe myself as is confident. No matter in what stage in life I've gone through, I've been confident, most definitely confident in the promise that God has given me over my life. I said today that I'm just going through life checking off prophecy. And so I want to encourage somebody who might be listening to just go through your life and check off whatever it is that God said concerning you. So do I comment now or comment later?
You can
Oh, absolutely. So as y'all were talking, y'all got to talking about a mirror. And I sat there and I thought about the definition of a mirror, how a mirror is pretty much anything that shows a reflection of who you are. I believe that a problem is that we are in the technology age and we replace our mirror with a television.
Wow.
And so what we do is we watch the television and you see different things, you see different people on the television that sort of kind of shape the identity that you want or that you would like to have. So in my home growing up, my mom didn't let us play or let me play with guns because she didn't want me to be someone out on the street shooting someone. She had standards, right? We couldn't watch everything on television. And so I believe someone said something about the mother might actually be the problem or a part of the problem. Because standards is the real issue. If we had standards in the home, whereas children can't watch everything, children can't do everything. And so when you allow children to shape their identity based on what they see, that's what's going to happen. But the real truth is that when the television turns off, you'll still see that reflection. When the television goes off, you'll see the reflection of who you really are. And that does take time with God, but it takes time with yourself. There are 3 calls that I want to talk, and I'm going to pass them out. There are 3 calls that take place in life according to the word. The first call is from God to man. The second call is from God to self. The third call is from man to man. From God to man, from man to man, and from God to self. The problem is we don't take enough time with God so that you can learn who it is that God says about you. Once you learn who it is that God says you are, then you got to take time with yourself and accept who God says you are. Accept and deal with those things. Go through the reality, go through that process. And then once you accept who you are, you can then be effective in helping other people. And so, yeah, that's what I want to say.
Great point.
Perseverance. In these days, sometimes, they're good, sometimes they're bad. But in order for you to make it, I think, in this day and age, is you have to have that perseverance. You got to have that drive. And I think that's the word for me. Thank you.
I mean, you've heard it from the panel, you've heard it from some of our guests. And what do you think about yourself? I want to say something. I know Prophet Daniel said something that was really interesting to me about the reflection. And I share this story, very personal story. I remember when my mom passed away. And I was trying to figure out what was it, because I felt so disheveled and displaced. What was it that I was missing outside of her presence? And it was the reflection of myself in my mother's eyes. I didn't have anyone to look at me and to show me or tell me. She was my conscience. She showed me when I was wrong. She applauded me with her eyes when I was right. When I came in the room, I knew she was excited to see me. When I was making decisions, I knew she was a praying woman. I knew she would, her eyes would let me know how I looked. And so I never had to worry about a mirror because I had the reflection of myself in my mother's eyes. And I believed what I saw in my mother's eyes. But what I want to talk about right here for the panel is we talked about what we want to be known by and what we want people to remember and what we think of ourselves. What is it, I want to say, is there a difference between what we see and how others identify us? Because, they're not always one and the same. What you think of yourself is not always how people perceive you. And in accounting, if there's any discrepancies or any imbalance, there has to be what's called a reconciliation. So I believe we have to reconcile what people see and what we see in ourselves. And so how can we begin to reconcile the perceptions that individuals may potentially have versus what we know ourselves to truly be? James, would you?
I think first we have to have a reality check and really look in the mirror, going back to the mirror, and identify that one word and be realistic with yourself. Yes. Sometimes we want to use words. For me, my word wouldn't be consistent, because sometimes I can be inconsistent. So that's why my word is passionate, because sometimes the passion can deviate or help with the inconsistencies. So I think we have to be real with ourselves and don't give ourselves a false word of who we really not. And then when the people look at you and if they say you're passionate, you're saying you're consistent and you're not, then if you be real with yourself, I think it helps with what the people see and comparing it to what you see in yourself.
I think that's so good. I've worked in corporate America, and in corporate America, I cannot tell you how many interviews I've done. And I've sat on this side and I'm tell me a little bit about yourself. And you hear, everyone, I'm this, I'm a people person, and they hate people. I'm a hard worker, I'm very timely, and they can't make it, if you set the clock back, they won't make it on time. So a lot of times I believe we deal in ideas about ourselves or what we ideally want to be. And we identify ourselves more with the idea of what we want to be than the actuality of who we are. And so I believe when like you said, I love what you said. That was a wonderful answer. How you have to really be true to yourself. Right. And then that if that is who you want to be, that every day, every decision, every choice you make surrounds that. If it's love, am I loving today? Who can I love today? How can I show the love of God today? So we have to be, really, really true to form on that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and after this, we're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
Do you have a product or service, or have a special event that you would like to announce to thousands in the DeKalb area? Well, reach out to us for our low introductory rate at www.eytvshow.com for our low introductory rates.
Welcome back to the Mantle of Leadership. I'm your host, Pastor MJ Easley. So excited. I hope you've been with us the entire time to hear what we've been talking about. Lost identity. Talking about finding who we are, finding our identity. We talked about the absence of parents or fathers in a home and how it displaces us, disshuffles us, and how it really puts us behind the 8 ball. Really, we talked about what defines us. And we know that in life, we have what you call defining moments, but then there are also moments where you have refining moments. I want us to talk about after you've defined who you are, how do you begin to refine who you are? So let's talk about that. I want to start with Mr. Morton right there. I think he can help us with this subject.
We can refine who we are by continuing to study, by continuing to learn and to be students of life. As African American people, we can learn more about what our history is. We have to embrace it, not be afraid of it, not deny it. Our whole history was not slavery. We have a rich and proud history.
Yes.
Too few of us know about that history. Too few of us think that it started with the first slave boat. But we've got a history that passes slavery by thousands of years. If you look at it, even Caucasians say that civilization started in the cradle of Africa. And if that's where we came from, then I know we must have a rich and proud history. And the benefit that I've had in my life is to being able to study that history. I've been able to visit the continent of Africa. I've been able to see the Caribbean. I've been able to talk to people who know for a fact that we are a people, not just a African diaspora, as people refer to us as, but we are a people who the world emulates. If you look at all of our top entertainers, if you look at all of our custom, our ways, our habits, our colloquialisms, our language, folks imitate us. They imitate us in every way, in everything that we do. Folks get a suntan so they can be dark like us. Folks thicken their lips so they can have a full figure and full face like us. Folks walk like us, talk like us. So where does that come from? That comes from the fact that we are seen as a valuable resource. The problem is we need to value ourselves as much as the rest of the world does.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Self-value. Edward, how do you think we can begin to, after we've defined who we are, to begin to refine ourselves?
I think just allow yourself to be sifted, go through the sifting of life, being able to, be taught, like you said, educate yourself, separate, the good and the bad from who you are. You have things that really, situations that will refine you, and so I think you have to allow yourself to go through that refining process, to go through situations that really show your character, and also that sometimes mostly build character as well. Always be open to learn, always be open to change, and I think that's the way you refine yourself. Yeah.
Awesome. Mr. Napper?
Yeah, education is the way, and as a group of people or an individual, we have to just truly accept who we are and how we are, but with the mind perspective, changing the way we think, because we're going to have flaws, shortcomings, and that's just what we are. But to get to the root of it, we just have to continue to, like you say, do research on our history and do research within yourself on who you really are to the core, as we were speaking earlier. And I guess that's probably about the best way we can explain it, with education, research, read, study.
Now, do you think we have a problem with education in our community?
Yeah, they said if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they know we don't want to learn, and I can't tell you where did it come from, but we've fallen into that trap, and until we open ourselves up to learning again, until we embrace reading, until we embrace education, you'll never change. Education is the way. When a person goes through college, he's been through working on a second master's degree, he didn't become who he was by being zapped. They made him read. Absolutely. And whatever you read, you'll become it. And so that's how, that's what has to happen.
Okay. James.
I think it's not necessarily that we don't want to learn. I think we don't want to learn what will benefit us.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because we love to learn new rap songs. We love to, learn things that are fun to us, but we don't want to learn the things that'll benefit us. It's kind of like the old days when mama put the greens in front of you, and the cupcake. And you really want the cupcake, but the greens are better. I think that's what we're facing right now in our society. It's like there's a learning table, and over here you have a book that can educate you on your history and teach us about the things of Africa. And then over here you got this new rap CD that just came out, the Lil Wayne cut, and the kid is gonna grab that CD quicker than they are the book. And I think we just gotta how we can redefine ourselves is by learning things that benefit us.
Absolutely. I say this, and I know viewers, you've probably heard me tell this story 100 times, so act like it's your first time. But anyway, I remember I was dealing with a mom and a dad, and she was really just perplexed because her son was like a gangbanger. He sold drugs, and she didn't understand it. She was a musician. Her dad sung. He was a deacon. And she really could not understand how in the world did my boys turn out like this. And I had the opportunity to speak to one of her sons. And I said, your parents, they love God. He was like, I love God too. And I said, but they're kind of, worried about you. And so I got to, start listening to his conversation. And I saw something. The neighborhood that they grew up in, there was a drug dealer. And he had this big old Cadillac and these rings and gold and jewelry. And even though he came from what you would consider a God-fearing family, a mother and a father who loved God and was teaching him, I noticed something. He was more impressed by what the drug dealer had. Mm-hmm. And so I've learned it's what impresses us the most influences us. Oh, wow. So it's what leaves an impress. So it's not, we can expose people to all the knowledge in the world, but it's what impresses them that will influence their actions. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And what we have to do is start rewarding education.
Absolutely.
We reward everything but education. We don't put that out there as something that you're going to get benefit back from. Yeah. People don't see it. So kids don't gravitate towards it because they don't perceive the reward in it. Okay. They don't know that the reward is at the end or near the end after you graduate from high school and college and get into your profession. So if we can show them, we've actually now, there are some schools that had to go to the extreme of actually paying students to show up to school.
Wow.
Paying students for perfect attendance. Now in my home, the only motivation for perfect attendance was my old man. You know what I mean? He said, if you don't get up and go to school today, then you got to deal with me. So we missed that type of motivation, so that I didn't understand education, or I didn't particularly want it. I wanted to be on the playground playing sports or doing this or chasing girls. But once I realized the value and where it could take you and the vehicle that it could put you in, then I said, oh, okay, now I understand. So those are the things that I think we have to really do for our kids, is to show them the value of education, give them the rewards, put them around other people who have education in their life and the benefits that it's given to them.
Go ahead.
Just to piggyback on something that you said about the drug dealer, Adolf Hitler said, tell a lie long enough, loud enough, and the world will believe it. Yeah. What happens is you're reinforcing that image. You see the drug dealer that has the bling bling. You get on the BT and they have the bling bling. It's the repetition of it. That's all the kids are seeing, and their minds are being molded that that's the life. That's what we should do. Education, graduation, those type of things it's not in constant play. It's what advertisement does. So whatever they see often, it's constantly repeated, that's what they gravitate to. And what happens is we have to get back in control of our TV systems and change what our people are seeing, because you show it to me and I'll become it. Yeah. And that's
so it's not impressive.
No, because that's not education, they don't put it out there.
How much do you believe your association helps with your identity? Who you associate with? Friends?
Yeah. Show me your friends and I'll show you who you are.
Awesome.
Sometimes damnation by association. Birds of a feather flock together.
Wow.
Me and him, if I sell drugs and he's not a drug dealer, he's not going to hang with me. Right. That's not weird. If he's a preacher and I'm a Magic City guy, we ain't going to do too much together.
Well, sometimes depending on the preacher.
Well, no, depending on the preacher, yeah.
Okay. Good point. But so you do think that your association does play a role in your identification?
Yes, sir.
Assimilation by association.
Absolutely.
I think that's key.
I think that people only associate around who they're comfortable with.
Right.
And it shows you, who you affiliate with shows you what you think of yourself.
Yeah.
And not only that, what you know about yourself.
Wow.
Sometimes people don't understand your affiliation, but they don't understand this is what the individual is showing you. You're better than that. You try to tell my nephews, my cousin, you're better than that. It's that they don't see that in themselves.
Wow.
So I really believe that plays a role. But we have a little time left. I really want you all to tell me what you all have going on. I know you talked about your play and everything. I want you to, what are the dates that's going to be taking place?
February 13th and 14th at Georgia Tech's First Center for the Arts. The name of the play is What God Joined Together. I'm so excited about it. We have a lot of other dates coming up as well, but Atlanta's where it starts. And I'm just truly, truly, truly excited about it.
Okay, now let me put in my little bit. I sang a little bit. So you ever need?
I got you. The gathering, at the gathering,
okay, okay. Mr. Morton, what you have going on?
Currently, right now, I am with a marketing team, Bent Publications, and we are putting out 3 of the latest Black History calendars, that 3 periods of time that were really lost in our history. The first one is Black Wall Street. 1921, Tulsa, Oklahoma, the richest black city in America, was burned down to the ground in less than 24 hours. These were millionaires who learned the value of how to make money and stay in our community. The second one is about Selma, the movie that just came out. This tells the rest of the story that the movie couldn't tell. The movie did a great job, but it was only 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
Right.
But there's so much more to Selma that folks don't know. Our calendar gives that information. And then this third one right here, we talk about our history going back to the real first original black president. A lot of people think Barack Obama was the first. He was not. There was a man named John Hanson who wrote the Articles of Confederation in 1785, who was actually the first black man to lead this country, but he was scrubbed from the history books. So we went back and got this research and put it in calendar form, so every day of the year there's a different black history fact that everybody can look at and read and share with their children, their family, and their friends. And we just hope that this hits the community, and we've known that it's made it into some barbershops and beauty salons, but we want to get it in some schools and with some other people who can influence children.
I have that one.
You've got this one?
Yeah.
All right.
James?
What I have going on is just really ministry related. A few things down in Southeast Georgia in the community. Our organization, GREAT, which again is Generation Reaching, Educating, and Teaching, is right now currently working on a local spelling bee, in which the winner of that local spelling bee will be rewarded. They'll get an opportunity to go to the regional spelling bee and then hopefully the state spelling bee, and if we can push them a little farther, the national spelling bee. So that's the biggest thing we have going in our nonprofit right now. As far as ministry, you can always check me out on my website. It's www.jecray.org. That's JECRAY.org, and there's a place that you can go and just find out what we have going on in ministry.
Okay, Eddie?
Okay, I'm in core business with a gentleman that do logistics, freight moving. We have our door open to individuals that are qualified to drive tractor trailers, not to be an employee, but to be an owner. So we invite you to come in. We set a program together for you to get incorporated, get you some corporate accounts, and become an owner-operator and build your organization in the transportation industry as well as we did. And I also buy, sell, trade, and restore classic cars.
That's awesome. As you can see, this panel is full of just not one thing. We don't just have preachers, we have entrepreneurs, we have a historian, activist. Your identity, who you are, don't limit yourself. You can be who you want to be. You don't have to allow circumstances or situations or your reality to determine the truth of who you are. You have that option. You choose. You look in the mirror every day and examine yourself and examine your core to make sure that everything that you are doing is lining up to who you are, and that you stay true and remain authentic to who you are. Know yourself, be yourself.